Hi folks, are you fed up of paying dealer prices? In this video I'm going to show you how to change the front brake pads of your E90 BMW. With the wheels firmly on the ground, slacken all 5 wheel nuts. Position a suitable jack under the designated jacking point. Raise the vehicle sufficiently to remove the road wheel. This picture shows the road wheel removed. Using pliers, grip and twist to the left to remove the caliper spring. Take extra caution here. Remove the plastic caliper retaining bolt covers, then use a 7mm Allen key or hex tool to undo the caliper. Place the caliper above the brake disc to prevent any damage to the rubber pipes. Compare the old pad and the new pads to ensure that they are correct for your vehicle. Clean the faces of the caliper carrier to remove any traces of corrosion. Here you can clearly see a witness mark where the worn pad has been resting. Here you can see all traces of corrosion have been removed. Apply a smear of copper slip or suitable anti-seize compound to prevent corrosion in future. Do the same for the lower part and 2 faces behind the brake disc. Fit the brake pad by slotting it into position, ensuring that it locates properly. Keep the friction material free from grease and dirt. Undo the brake master cylinder reservoir cap. Use a G-clamp to move the brake caliper piston back. I find a 3-inch clamp works well. Keep an eye on the fluid reservoir, you don't want brake fluid on your paintwork. Clip the pad into the piston on the caliper. Apply some anti-seize compound to the caliper mounting pins and refit the caliper. Tighten the mounting pins to the specified torque. Once again I used a 7mm hex tool. Give the pads a final check, ensure they are seated correctly and spin the brake disc. Refit the plastic covers to protect the caliper guide pins. Refit the caliper retaining spring. Apply a thin smear of anti-seize compound to the face of the brake disc to prevent the alloy wheels corroding to the steel brake disc. Don't get any grease on the brake disc where the pads grip. Leave the shiny part of the disc free from grease. And also don't forget a small smear for the wheel locating ring, they like to corrode here. Apply a thin coating of anti-seize compound to the bolts that secure the wheel. Refit the road wheel and securing bolts. Tighten diagonally and only hand tight. Lower the vehicle to the floor and tighten each bolt to the specified torque. Refit the reservoir cap and pump the brake pedal until a firm pressure is felt. This will seat the pads to the disc. Now repeat the steps for the other side. Remember to swap over the pad wear sensor. I have not needed to replace it as I did not let the old pads fall below 3.7mm. Before testing your work, ensure that the brake pads have been seated by pressing the brake pedal to move the pads in contact with the brake discs. Also check that the brake fluid reservoir is not above the max mark. As my pads were worn, the fluid returned to the max mark when the new pads were fitted. Finally, allow the pads 500 miles to bed in. During this time, avoid heavy braking where possible.